coming out of that experience, never having experienced contentment, the first time you experience it, it's liberational, right? And after you go through that period, you find that you're forever different. So even when you relate to women or have conversations with women, you find that you're free from chasing that thing that you've always been taught to chase.
It's a privilege to not only have the kind of access that we have to this kind of content, but the fact that I'm allowed to respond to this content is just a true privilege. And so anyone that's following me and watching this video, you see both of these gentlemen on the screen, Dr. Tiesan Johnson, BGS, IBMOR, just subscribe and watch 2 or 3 videos and you'll be incredibly surprised with the kind of knowledge you're going to get. And here, Dr. Tiesan Johnson is talking about how his outlook changed as he emerged from the backside of the COVID lockdowns as a monk, and how it just fundamentally changed his interactions with women. He continues.
Right, exactly. That you've been socialized to chase.
Yeah, you've been socialized to chase. And women will play with that. Women will, tease you with it and take it back when they're mad at you. When you get to a point where you stop caring, oh man.
Indifference, yeah.
Oh man, they're not ready for that. Now,
yesterday during a conversation on my Patreon, it dawned on me why these conversations that so many Black men are having about their romantic relationships with Black women are so scary. And it's because conversations that in other communities are stigmatized as incel conversations that only the smallest group of the most marginalized men are supposed to have, are being mainstreamed among heterosexual Black men.
This is Kimberly Foster, and she made this TikTok about 2.5 years ago, so it probably coincides with the rise of Kevin Samuels, hence why she's referring to this video as this explosion of Black incels or Black male incels. And she's speaking in a tone that's kind of normalizing the Black community, where the selection of Black men isn't good enough and Black men need to do better, and etc. But I don't necessarily need to react to her content specifically as much as just show that this is a standard view of what kind of conversation there is. And I would also say that in terms of there being an explosion of Black incels, that's simply not true. And you'll hear many people say that that's just not the case for several reasons. If you are a gainfully employed Black man over 30, basically get up, go to the shower, and go to work, and you smell clean when you walk out the door, it's almost technically impossible for you to be an incel, because somebody will want to be with you for one of the 2 types of sex. And I classify sex in 2 different categories, because if you say the first category, young men will take sex any way they can get it. But as men get older, is that second category of sex that men want. And that first category is what they walk away from, hence being called incels. She continues.
And it doesn't matter the education level. It doesn't matter the income level. Huge swaths of Black women's dating pool is tainted by overt and malicious misogyny. That shit is scary. And I'm not even trying to say that other races of men are not misogynistic. Obviously, they are. That is to say that a very small group of Black men have been able to dress up very bad ideas as being pragmatic and reasonable.
So this is the kind of conversation that's par for the course. And I think for a lot of passport bros and guys that are going overseas, they have to debrief in a way, because we are so acculturated to pleasing. We think that when we're with someone, it is our job to please them and make them happy. And if you get into the vein of always needing to please someone, you can create problems. That's one issue. But the second issue, of course, is that, quite simply put, the older that you get, the first type of intercourse is less and less appealing. And the second type of intercourse is not just more appealing, but when you get to a certain level or a certain age, if you can't have the second type of intercourse, why even bother at all? This is the 2 gentlemen from earlier speaking about the value of emotional labor that men give to women.
Even therapy, again, when led by a majority female group, will push more toward male service and more emotional labor. And again, this is the thing. It's such a valuable, product. It's such a valuable practice despite not being talked about aloud. It's amazing how often, and I would go so far as to include your concept of downloading. Oh yes, downloading is emotional labor.
Now he's going to explain downloading. This is BGS talking about his idea downloading, and it is something that simply is not valued. It's not valued, but it's something we're expected to do by default.
Downloading, and if anybody that's ever been in a relationship with, serious relationship with a woman, okay, I don't care how long it's been, right? Okay, it's when the female would actually engage with you and discuss on almost like a one-way discussion where she's emoting herself, talk about her problems, talk about her life, talk about her emotions, her feelings, all that kind of stuff for minutes, sometimes hours. Okay,
downloading is one of the many ways that men are taught to be emotionally available in modern relationships. And so when your girl comes home from a rough day at work and she wants to talk about the next lady that's sitting next to her at work and how she doesn't cooperate with her, that's downloading. But the thing is, no one is taught, Black men in particular, that you giving that attention away is valuable, because it is. And this is one of the reasons why I like to actually do response videos to these channels, is because this is one of the few channels that I hear Black men telling other Black men that your light, and this is actually a BGS video, your light has value. And your attention has value, especially when you're allowing yourself to be the person who's being downloaded on. So when you see guys that are saying, especially guys that have circles, and this was actually talked about in a different part in the video where B just talked about a guy who has a circle of 20 plus women, but those women are all emotionally downloading on him. And so he goes to see that young lady. She's like, make me feel good and listen to my problems. And you think that seems like he's winning the exchange until you factor in the part where he's getting downloaded to each person's house that he goes to. And you think of it from that point of view, who's really winning the equation? And this leads us to the two different kinds of relations. And Dr. Tieson Johnson is going to speak to it here.
How would sex be different for most brothers if it was just about his pleasure?
Wow. Yeah.
You tell me how because again, I grew up in the era where men told each other, because this was something women told us, right? That you needed to be able to go for hours.
Yeah.
And so even at a young age, I remember at 15 years old, brothers were sharing this information with each other about women's expectations of them in bed. You had to now, and even in high school, what that ended up being was girls would lay there and just, lay there. And the idea was that you needed to pleasure her.
And this actually goes back to the opening TikTok with the young lady talking about how this explosion of Black male inceldom is a problem, because the baseline expectation is, I'm a woman, your job is to please me. And what happens when men stop wanting to do that? Men stop saying, I don't want to do type A interrelation sex. I don't want to do that. And that's something that happens, especially as guys get older. You work more, you accumulate more experience. And for guys going overseas, you see, wow, I'm meeting women that want to please me. And if you get into that situation, then you look back and say, well, who's really doing who a favor? And that's where you start seeing a lot of the frustration, and not just passport bros, but SYSBM and guys who are dating out, is because that old myth of you're here to pleasure me. It is your job to do the work and I'm doing you a reward. That idea is falling apart.
Especially Black, we want her to feel good because you're having that sex mostly for her anyway.
And if you're the one with emotional or sexual trauma in your past, and it starts to spill over into sex, are women trained on what to do for men in that situation?
No, they're not. They are not. And most women will actually dump you, so because you're too hard to deal with.
But she may lose respect for you.
She will lose respect for you.
Yeah, and being married to someone who does not respect you. You want to talk about the seventh circle of hell? But anyway,
as a 20-year expat, who talks to probably a good number of young men who are desirous of becoming expats, I like to talk about channels like these and others that are associated with these kinds of channels that speak to the Black male experience because of our socialization. We're socialized to worship women. We're socialized to put women's desires and feelings above our own individual needs. We're taught in the bedroom that it's our job to be the pleaser and to never be pleased. And so when you hear people speak about this abundance of Black incels, really what's happening is that you're getting a larger and larger group of men, especially men that are north of 30, saying, why can't I have a woman that wants to please me? And when you start getting a large number of those men that say, you know, if I got to go through all this work and I'm going to do the work in the bedroom too, what's the point? And that's a place where men overseas have us beat. I'll be honest with you, because guys overseas will lead with, hey, listen, I'm going to take care of you. I got whatever, and you could work your job, but I'm going to make sure that you're going to be okay. And I'm going to lead the house, and slowly I'm going to become more accommodating as we grow old together, as opposed to leading with that, which creates all the problems on the back end, which is a trap that many guys can fall into, especially Black expats. And so for people that are thinking there are this large group of Black expats or Black men out there, or Black men that are incels, maybe it's just that Black men are getting tired of being the pleasers in the bedroom. And if the two choices are being a pleaser or not participating, maybe not participating is not such a bad deal at all, especially when you hear wind of men going overseas finding women that are giving them the second type of option. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care, guys.